Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this one's going to be a fun one. This one's kind of interesting to me. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to compare the Jeep Compass Trailhawk to the Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk. And the reason I think this is interesting is because the Trailhawk version is a little bit more of an off-roady type version, but they're also fairly well equipped, and there's a lot of similarities in these two vehicles, but there's also key differences. And I think some people will be better served by this one, some will be better served by that one, and I think sometimes it might surprise us which one is best for us. So obviously there's a price difference and a size difference, but there's a lot of key features that you have on one versus the other, key things that are a little bit different. And what I'm going to try to do is take you beyond the spec sheet, take you beyond the regular reviews, and start talking about the real things that matter to drivers, to owners, that are different between these two models, to hopefully give you a rundown of what's best on each in order for your needs. So not just what's best, but what's best for your needs. Now I'm filming here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals here in Fredericton, New Brunswick. They give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup. So if I don't cover everything you want me to cover on these two vehicles, just let me know in the comment section what you want to know, and I'll come back to them both in the comment section and in future videos to make sure that I have a video database of the information that you want, so that you have a better understanding of which one of these vehicles is best for you. And if it's not one of these vehicles, there's a whole bunch of other vehicles here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals that you can also check out. All right, let's get going with this review. So before we get going into the things that the other videos aren't covering, let's just clarify a few things that the other videos probably are covering. These are each different size vehicles. This one's a hair smaller than this one. They each have different engines. So this one has a 2.4 liter four-cylinder, which is branded their Tiger Shark engine. And this one's a 3.2 liter V6, which is branded their Pentastar engine. Now, don't get too tied to that Pentastar name, for instance, because there's still a 3.6 liter. This one's a 3.2, but there's a 3.6 liter V6 engine in the Jeep lineup and in the Chrysler lineup. That is their Pentastar engine, and that's a slightly larger engine. So a lot of variety here. Now what also is interesting is you can get the 2.4 liter four-cylinder in this vehicle, but not in the Trailhawk version. That Trailhawk version being that little bit more of an off-road version. We're going to talk about that off-roadable type pieces in this. So again, a little bit smaller engine, a little bit bigger engine, a little bit lighter weight vehicle as well. So the 2.4 in here is going to be more peppy than the 2.4 over here. So let's start talking about some of the specific details, and this is where we kind of get into the nitty-gritty. What we're going to do is go through from the front end to the rear end, go the rear seats to the front seats. There's a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. So grab yourself a snack, grab yourself a beverage. We're going to get into some details. If the first couple details seem like they don't matter to you, don't worry, we'll work our way into things that I think matter to you most, especially as we move into the driver's environment. So let's get going. One other point of clarification before we get going too far is this is a 2021 model, that's a 2020 model. Now most of what I'm going to show you today is still going to be relevant today, but there are some chances that some things have changed, and there's a chance that things will change after I film this video. But again, most of what I'm filming today is still going to be valid for these vehicles, which are slightly used, and with new vehicles. So first thing, let's take a look at just the top over here of the hood. We'll work our way to the headlights. This here is usually just a styling detail, but these sort of dark, non-reflective black panels that are essentially just stickers are common on off-road vehicles, and the idea is they're going to reduce glare in the windshield, especially as you're on weird angles to the sun and that kind of thing. So that can be something that's useful on a highway drive as well. They have anti-glare capabilities, sort of like a baseball player wearing those the black things underneath their eyes, those the tar or oh boy, you guys are going to make fun of me, the shoe polish, there we go, underneath their eyes. That's the same idea there. So, and other difference is, again, these are off-road models. So when I say off-road models, what matters is a good approach angle, right? You can approach a steep hill there, and both of these models have unique front ends that instead of having an air dam come out for pure aerodynamics, they have a better approach angle there. Now you can look at the spec sheet on which one's better, but the point is both of these are better than just about anything else in their class. They also have good departure angles, which means that you can come off the wheel without scraping the bumper and be on that angle right there and have that. So both of those are good, as well as having decent ground clearance. Now Jeep has what they call a trail rated system. They don't admit this very openly, but there are differences in their trail rated system. There's actually, somebody admitted, a marketing person admitted at one point that it's sort of a 1 to 10 scale. And for instance, the Jeep Wrangler two-door Rubicon is a 10 out of 10. The four-door Rubicon is a 9 out of 10. So these ones are lower down on the spec sheet. But the point is, these are probably more off-road capable than most other, if not all other vehicles in their classes. So that matters, and it's not just approach angles. You have things like recovery straps or recovery points. So these little red tow hooks, they're not just style, they're actually strong enough to pull the vehicle out, and there's two. So those are good for a couple reasons. One, you can pull yourself out of a situation. Two, between that and the plastic non-painted bumper, you can tie down things like kayaks on your roof rack. So if you made that front line there, you can pull it around. Usually the non-painted bumpers where your rope will touch going up to the nose of your kayak. So those are helpful for tie downs, they're helpful for towing out. Again, I'm recognizing that not everybody is going to use these for pure off-road, so much so that they get stuck and need the tow hooks. A lot of people thinking about that are thinking about things like the Wrangler. These ones, I think what you're going to use it for is you want that capability for when you take your kayak to the lake and you have that bumpy road or you have that little bit more off-road. Now some people will take these off-road and that's fine, and if you do, you're probably going to want to look at the Cherokee Trailhawk because this one has much more aggressive all-terrain tires. So all-terrain tires are good for a couple things. They have a much deeper tread. Oftentimes they are snowflake rated, which means they have some more snow capability than the typical all-season tire. They also tend to have a little bit stiffer sidewall, which can lead to, in some cases, not as smooth of a ride, but it also keeps it from getting punctured on rocks that might be up against the side. So that's one thing to remember with all-terrain tires. You can see over here, this one has very much street tires. So again, street tires here on the Compass. You save a little bit of money buying this vehicle, but you also are probably not taking it as far off-road. At least if you are, you may want to consider upgrading those tires. The other thing to look at up front is the headlights. You have headlights and fog lights here. This is the Compass here. And hopefully you can sort of see them there. I'm not going to turn them on because you can sort of see what's going on there. These are traditional style headlights, nothing too fancy there. There's definitely an upgrade when you come over to the Cherokee. You can see this projector style, hopefully we can see it there. Yeah, sort of projector style light there. It's in this darker housing there. That projector style housing is a more clean, organized light that is an upgrade over the regular headlights of the Compass over there. So some differences in the front. Let's take a look at the trunk now, talk about some differences in there, and then we'll move our way to the rear seats, front seats, and talk about some of the technology differences as well. So as we move to the rear, I'm gonna open the trunks using the key fobs right now, and you can see the key fobs are identical on both, and they both have a double tap for the remote start, which is bottom right, and a double tap for the power tailgate. Now, power tailgates are pretty common in the Cherokee class, but they're less common in the Compass class. So we're gonna double tap them both, and I'm gonna put the keys both in my pocket. But before we go into the trunk, I'm going to talk about what else is different in the back here. Oops, it helps if I actually hit the button on the Cherokee. There we go. So there we go, got them both opening there. I got the keys in my pocket here. I'm holding the camera in one hand and the keys in the other. So I'm gonna put them in my pocket. Let's talk about towing capacity on these. Both of these are capable of towing. If you have the 2.4 liter engine in this, which is what it comes with, you don't have a hitch included, but you do have the ability to tow about 2,000 pounds. So you could take your jet ski somewhere, you could take your ATV, you could even take a very lightweight camping trailer. Over here, I really like what they do with this one over here, the Cherokee, because not only do they give you a full-size hitch, they also give you 4-pin and 7-pin wiring, and it's built into the frame, and it's higher off the ground. A lot of vehicles make you add, especially even in this class, they make you add an accessory underneath the bumper and it hangs really low and you have to have a huge rise to the hitch ball. A lot of vehicles are made to be towed, or a lot of trailers are made to be towed by a pickup truck or a larger SUV. This is not a large SUV, but it does give you the height you need. And again, having a little ground clearance here, you keep that ground clearance to the hitch with your trailer. You don't need as much of a rise. And it's just a nicer, cleaner, built-in hitch there. And you can tow up to 4,500 pounds, which means you can tow a good-sized trailer with a vehicle like this. So that's a nice big advantage. If you are towing, you've got the 7-pin, 4-pin, and the larger hitch over there. So let's look at the trunks for a second here. Basically, trunk size is very good for this class in the Compass here. We're just gonna go back to, there we go. It was a little bit, tiny bit wide angle there. So trunk size is very good. This is the Compass here. This one happens to have a rubber mat down there. You can get these Jeep accessories here. We're gonna flip up this though. This is what's cool about the Trailhawk models. The Trailhawk models have full-size spare tires in each of their models. So this is a full-size spare here, matches the exact same tire size on the outside, and you have the same idea over here with a full-size spare tire, which again is a different sized tire. So the reason manufacturers don't do that is, one, it costs more. Two, and this one does have some storage outside, you can see that. Two, you know, they really don't, if you're not off-roading, you really don't need a full-size spare tire. It's a very temporary tire. But if you are off-roading, or if you're towing a trailer and you have a flat, it's really, really nice to have a full-size spare tire. So that's pretty rare in the industries. In some vehicles in these classes, they don't even put a spare tire in at all in Canada. They put in a inflator kit, which is pretty inconvenient in certain situations. So I gotta applaud Jeep for that. Overall, pretty square opening here. You can see there's no real speaker or anything there. You've got the wheel well arches in there. You do have tie downs for all the stuff you need to tie things down. The front, so the back, the front, and the same thing over here, the back and the front. You also have the 3 child seat anchors, so you can put your child seat wherever you want. I don't know that you'd fit 3 across in here. You'd have to measure your child seats, but you can put 1 in the center, you can put 2 on the outside, that kind of thing. You do have a little hook over here, which is a little grocery bag hook, so you can have, if you've got apples or oranges you just bought in a grocery bag, you can clip it in there. They won't roll around your trunk. This will allow us to shut the trunk. We have the same button on both vehicles here, and a 12-volt port there, a little bit of underfloor or a little side storage there. Let's quickly just compare this over here to what we have on the Trailhawk. Now the Trailhawk has a nice sound package here, large, so the wheel well also includes the large subwoofer type thing. You have a double setting of those little bags there, some space underneath there, and the same thing we come over this side. You've got 2 more, the double bag clips there, the tie downs, same thing there. Tie downs are really nice on a vehicle that off-roads because you can get a cargo net that holds everything down. You have another 12-volt port over there as well, and the button to close both trunks. So we can tap that button once and the trunk will close down, and we can do the same thing over here on the Compass. But again, kind of nice and convenient. You don't have to reach up to the top of the trunk. So if you are shorter, or if you've parked in an off-roady area and sometimes it drips down there, you don't have to drive forward to reach the top button or use your key fob. You can always touch that side area there. Overall, both vehicles in the back look pretty, you know, pretty, in my opinion, fairly aggressive for the class, but still very mainstream. The other thing you're gonna notice is there's little parking sensors on both of these vehicles here. A couple more over here on the Compass. You've got a little dot there in the center there, and over there, and of course, equal on the other side there. These vehicles are both required by law to be equipped with backup cameras now, which they have, but they also give you a visual display of warnings and beeps to show you if there's something you're not seeing in the camera, that it can show you with beepers and displays, which I'll show you in a second there. So you've got really good backup areas. The other thing both these vehicles have is blind spot warning, which also gives you rear cross traffic alert. And rear cross traffic alert is pretty cool. Imagine you're the white vehicle over there. It's impossible for that white vehicle to see me here. But as soon as the back end of this white vehicle, as soon as the back end of the Cherokee would back out and pass this area here, then let's just show you on this side. Let's just use this vehicle. As soon as this vehicle's rear end here, so that driver, there's no possible way the driver of the orange Compass can see me, but because the back end of the vehicle is clear, that radar that they use for blind spot detection when you're going forward is used for rear cross traffic alert when you're going in reverse. And that can see me, which can alert the driver to me crossing the path, which the driver wouldn't be able to see. And again, if they were closer here, you could just have the rear end of that bumper and the driver would be way out front. So both blind spot detection and rear cross traffic alert is available on these vehicles here. And that's a nice feature to have. It uses the same hardware, whether you're in forward or reverse, but it uses a different system. It looks a different way. All right, black roof with roof rails, white roof with roof rails. You can take stuff up top. That's important to me if you're going off-roading. If you're an outdoorsy kind of person, you've got the ability to take your cargo. Let's jump inside the Compass first, and then we'll look at the the Compass and the Cherokee next. Sorry about that, someone's going by and I lost my train of thought. So starting with the rear seat of the Compass is a smaller vehicle, but they've got a lot of features here that you don't always get. A lot of the time manufacturers will cheap out on the lower trim models and not have a soft touch armrest. They've got a bottle holder there, as you can see. You have pockets on the driver's side and the passenger side, which is good. These little red tags just say Trailhawk. It's a little hard to show you on video. You do have vents over here, so the 2 vents there. You also have a 12-volt port and a single USB port down there. Oh, sorry, not a 12-volt port, an actual plug, 150-watt plug down there, which will power low-power devices like laptops and other things. and a single USB down there. You also have a cup holder, 2 cup holders with a phone holder in the middle. Remember that phone holder? I'll just break it to you right now. The Cherokee doesn't have that phone holder. So let's just flip the camera around, show you what it looks like with me in here, because it's actually pretty impressive on the smaller of the 2 vehicles. All right, so we flipped that armrest up because I won't need it here, and that means I can show you my legs, which are flush on the seat. That is not common in this class, the smaller class. The other thing that's not too common is, oops, going the wrong way here. The other thing that's not too common is the amount of legroom that I have here. So legroom and rear seat comfort, at least for 4 passengers, is very, very good. You've got all the features you need. You've got soft touch everywhere, cup holders, vents, everything else. Very good rear seat here in the Compass. Now let's compare that to the slightly larger vehicle, the Cherokee, right now. All right, I parked these vehicles fairly close, which we're going to just be careful with here. I thought it looked better in the video to have them fairly close. We'll just be careful we don't smack the door on the other vehicle here. Back here, you have a lot of the same things. Because it's a slightly wider, larger vehicle, you have slightly wider, larger vents. You still have the pockets in the back of the seats right there. You definitely have a different seat. So different front seats, different rear seats here. You do have the cup holders like we talked about, but no phone holder in there. We're going to flip that up in there and put that out of our way. And then we're going to just take a quick look at the armrest here. Again, same idea with the armrest, actually similar feeling. I bet it's the same type of material underneath. But again, they are different seats. Let's jump in and compare them right now. So I didn't mention headroom in the Compass, but it is very similar. It's very good headroom here. I'm about 6 feet tall, so headroom's not an issue. Now, interestingly, legroom also good here. That's what we'd expect. This vehicle's bigger, so I'm on the seat. And, whoops, again, did the same thing with the camera. Interestingly here, the knee room is similar when I'm comfortable in the driver's seat. So this is where the specs don't always tell the same thing. The specs of where the driver's seat can sit can be a little different. So it's not a matter of where a 6-foot driver fits and where a 6-foot passenger sits. It's where a 6-foot driver is comfortable and where a 6-foot passenger is comfortable. And that's what I am here. So not a whole lot of extra legroom in this model, which kind of opens up the idea if you just need to take 4 people around on something that has some off-road ability, has some cool features, the smaller vehicle may be able to save you some money. Now I want to show you on the roof here, there are a little bit of lights up here. You don't have these double lights. Let's see if we can get the other one in the shot here. Yeah, there's one there, one here. You don't have those lights in the Compass, or sorry, yeah, in the Compass, but you do have them here in the Cherokee. Now let's take it to the front seat. We're going back to the Compass. We're going to take a look at the front seat, the driver's environment. A lot of really nice things here, and then we'll move into the higher end vehicle and compare the differences. All right, jumping into the Compass first, couple cool things I kind of like. Both mirrors are different style. They're a little bit, oh, maybe they are the same. They look a little bit different to me anyways, but they both have this nice signal light built in. Actually, you know what? There is a lot of similarity. It could be very similar mirrors here. We mentioned the blind spot detection. You can see that would show up there. They say Jeep up top there. This one does show clearly. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. Let's go down. Yes, it does have a little heated symbol, as they both do as well. So of course they're heated. That's pretty common for the class. Let's just go fully wide angle for a second. As we open the driver's door here, you do have the button on the door. It's keyless entry, which we talked about earlier with the keys. Now what's interesting is you have a powered seat, which is, you know, pretty normal in certain vehicles, certainly in this price class, but you have a 4-way lumbar. You have that on both of these vehicles, which is, again, rare in the price class, but that allows you to put your lumbar out, you know, lumbar out, and then also put it in the right position depending on how tall or short you are. Now, I will say the seats are different on both these vehicles, so again, although the adjustments are going to be the same, the seats are different. We'll talk about them as we jump in here. Let's just jump in right now and talk about some of the things that are different. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to turn on the vehicle. The start button is a little bit buried here. We'll get to that in a second there. It's kind of hard to see on video here. A little harder to find the first time you get in this car, but of course, if you own this vehicle, you'll have no issues finding it. I'm just going to open up these vents to get a little bit of air conditioning on me. So let's just talk seating position. Again, seating position is square. You sit relatively low compared to the hood, so it's a little bit car-like. You sit in it, not on it. Headroom, of course, is great. You can move the seat up or down, so you can really adjust this to where you want. There's definitely a little bit more of a compact feel. It feels a little bit narrower, and there's a little bit less of a luxurious feel. The seats in the other vehicle, in my mind, are a hair better, but I think for some people it's going to be a wash for comfort, right? So sometimes you can make things better, but from a comfort perspective, they kind of fit and they work and they're good. These ones feel a tiny bit firmer. Now, firm can be very comfortable on a long ride, whereas the other ones have just a slight bit more cush to them when you sit in them. Now, again, the support, that firm support, is what makes it comfortable on a longer ride, so there may not be a difference. Let's flip the camera around and look at some of the basics here, compare that to the Cherokee, and go from there. All right, so we are fully wide angle here on the camera. That's gonna skew the view just a little bit here, but I think it gives a decent view of what's going on here. Jeep, surprisingly to some, does a very good job with their electronics. This center display screen here is very customizable. You can change up things up in here. You can change up things in the center. Right now it's got speedometer. I always find it's funny that it says run. It doesn't mean run from the vehicle. I always think that's a funny thing to say. Like, as soon as you start it, it tells you it's running. And that can be useful for a number of things. Some of these vehicles, including this one, has an automatic start-stop. So you can find the tach drops to 0 once the vehicle's warmed up, and it can turn itself off at stoplights. That's pretty common in the class for some. You can turn that feature on or off, but it does give you an idea that the vehicle is still running. You can drive. And like I said, these gauges you can change around. So analog digital mix there, which is pretty good. Over here, I drive a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 4xe. That's my personal vehicle. And a lot of these controls, if not identical, are very, very similar. So generally speaking, you can customize this screen here. You can look at just the radio. You can look at, and when we talk about radio, AM, FM, and Sirius XM radio. So you have satellite radio available. Obviously, there is Apple CarPlay in here, Android Auto. There's also the ability to have Bluetooth streaming, all that kind of stuff. So good audio system here. There's your media menu here, which again, we can connect a device for Bluetooth streaming, that kind of thing. Climate. So what's interesting about climate here is, although this vehicle has space to put things like a heated seat button or something like that on there, they don't do that on this particular model. Now you can customize these down here to put heated seats up there. Right now, the way it's not customized, you'd have to go to your heated seats and your heated steering wheel right there. So the fact that this both has them is good. The fact that you have to switch to the screen, not so good. But again, you can customize some of these things down here in the menu. So you have to decide what you're gonna lose, what you're gonna put there, but you do have options. This is a very good screen. It reacts very quickly. It has good information. You can see when I touch things, that would load instantly if I had Bluetooth phones and stuff like that connected. You hit the radio. So it doesn't really matter what you touch. If you wanna do the climate system here, it's all very quick and very good. The only poor thing about it is the camera is fine, but not up to fully modern standards. It does turn with the wheel, which is good, but it could use a little bit more clarity. Again, clarity is sometimes overrated. You're not gonna miss anything here. You just won't see it in full high res. So, you know, we used to watch basketball and hockey on screens way worse than this, so you can always follow the puck on those screens. Again, we can see everything here. It's just not as clear as some of their competitors, but it's fine. Now we're going to come down to the menus over here. One little underrated screen is the screen off button. If you are driving at night, having display screen here and a display screen there, yes, you can dim them down, but the ability to just turn off the screen altogether does give you better visibility at night. Your eyes don't have to adjust to that extra light coming from this side. So let's just go fully wide angle. There we go. Your eyes looking forward don't have to adjust to the extra glare from this side or the extra brightness there. So being able to turn that screen off allows you to see everything. A simple tap of the screen will turn it back on, or hitting that button. But it is something that is worth mentioning that both these screens have. Down here, you're going to see a very similar display in both of these. We do have an automatic climate control here, which is really nice. I am going to turn the temperature up a little bit here, which you can do. It's a dual zone system, so I can control these both on the screen or on the controls here, which is good. Again, like I said, the only thing that to me is missing is I think they should have put the seat heating and steering wheel heater on there. So as I like to call them, rump roasters. Down here is interesting. I'm going to move the gear shift out of the way. Gonna zoom right in there. This is your four-wheel drive controller. Now, this vehicle is not built mechanically like a Jeep Wrangler, but it is one of the few crossovers with a lower range mode, which allows you to really climb pretty cool, like pretty steep hills, which is a pretty cool system in here. You can really kind of take advantage of the engine's power through this gearing system, which is, again, pretty rare. You also have all of these modes here: auto, snow, sand, mud, and rock. You just pick what you are driving through and it will work with you. So the auto mode is, again, always an all-wheel drive type system that will move the power as it needs to. And then each of these are going to change some of the settings, especially traction control, things like that. Sometimes hill descent control, which is, again, this button right up there. It can turn some of those on with these different modes. So lots of drive modes, and for the class, really quite a few. There's not going to be a rock mode in many other vehicles in this class. We're going to move slightly to the side. You've got a 12-volt plug there, and you've got a single USB-A plug over here. Let's just keep it wider angle. Let's go fully wide angle. Down here, you've got your gear shift, and then you have your, like I said, the auto stop start, the traction control, and an electronic parking brake with your cup holders down there. Take a quick look at the steering wheel because they are basically identical in both, very similar to my Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. You have your cruise control settings there. You have no buttons right on this one here. You got your phone buttons there, and then the information display for the center display right there in the center of your screen. That is all controlled right here. Automatic headlights are standard. You've got the ability to dim your dash, power windows, power locks, pretty standard stuff. The front windows are auto up and down, I believe. Let's try that. Auto down. Nope. Only hold on. Let's see. Auto down. Yep. Only auto down, not auto up. So there's your mirrors. Let's go take a look at the Cherokee. All right, so the Cherokee, again, a little bit larger vehicle, and you're gonna see some of that come through here. Now, we did talk about the powered seats, and I wanna show you again. Power lumbar with a 4-way lumbar support, powered seats, but different seats. So again, they feel a little bit cushier in that initial sit down there. So let's jump in. We'll flip the camera around for a second, show you my seating position, and then we'll go and show you some of the similarities and differences in this one. All right, so in this vehicle, still good headroom here. Like I said, a little bit more cush to the seat. The seats also feel a little bit larger. For me, they are more comfortable in the initial sit-in. Now, that doesn't mean they'll be more comfortable on the long drive, and this is always the battle with car manufacturers. You know, GM in the past used to make really cushy seats sometimes. Volkswagen's always made very firm seats, and there's an argument about which one's further over a long road trip. To me, these seats feel a little bit better, so you get a little bit better seat, which would make some sense. Gonna hit the start button here. It's a little easier to find. I don't know if you can, ooh, always do this the wrong way there. Hit the start button right there. A little easier to see from the driver's seat, but again, once you own this vehicle, you're gonna find it no problem. So climate control comes on quickly. I am sitting a little taller in this, but I still have good headroom in this. I feel like I'm a little bit up looking down at the hood instead of looking out at the hood. So my line of sight to the hood is down, as opposed, sort of like, let me see, like down like that, as opposed to up like that in the other vehicles. So there's a little different feel here overall. There's definitely a little extra width as well. So a little bit wider seats, a little bit wider center console. Let's take a look at what we've got in the dash here now. All right, looking at the dash here, again, a very customizable display. Let's see if we can go in here. So you can see up top, 462 kilometers of range. Again, that's gonna be dependent on the vehicle's, the way it's been sitting and driving. Never look at fuel efficiency on a dealership vehicle. They do exactly what I'm doing a whole lot. They sit there with the vehicle running, getting poor mileage, idling, that kind of thing. This display is a higher quality display. It has a few extra things. You can customize different things. Right now, your speedometer's up top. You can make your speedometer in the center. Right now, you can see your oil life is there. It's really nice to have an oil life monitor. So you've got this, it tells you when to change your oil, temperature gauge, fuel gauge. So again, a lot of customization here, and then again, the analog gauge is there. So while they look very similar at initial glance, and probably to some drivers, people would think they're basically the same, there is a little bit of an upgrade here. While we're looking at this view here, let's just look at the steering wheel. Again, identical, dummy buttons here. You've got the cruise control over here. You've got the ability to control that center display screen up there, and then your Bluetooth there. Same basic steering wheel. If it's not the exact same steering wheel, it's certainly designed the same, but it looks like the exact same steering wheel to me. Let's go a little bit higher up, and you have a few little things worth mentioning. There is a little small storage area up there which you can fit stuff. There's also a storage area up here which can fit your sunglasses. I don't remember seeing that in the Compass. Definitely not, don't have this one here. The display now is also an upgrade. Now let's see if we can see a difference in the backup camera. Again, anytime you're filming a screen, it's harder to show quality, but I can tell right from here, very similar. So again, not a super high resolution screen, kind of the same thing in both, which is interesting to know. Let's put it back in park there. There is a little bit more resolution to me in this. Now this color choice here of this greenish color, you can change a lot of that stuff. You can sort of see this pattern down here. There's like a whole bunch of screens. I think there's like 20 plus screens in most of these that you can change. I haven't done in this one, but in my Wrangler, it's a very similar screen. In fact, I think it's the same screen. And you can see a little bit of differences here. AM, FM, Sirius satellite radio, and you select the source here. You can customize things down here. So this one has a phone button there. This one does have navigation as well. So you have factory navigation, and you can move these buttons around. Factory navigation is pretty good. Sometimes it takes a second to load. Visually, it's not great, but direction-wise, it's very good. It has nice features here, like Fredericton is the current city. A lot of time it can show you the current speed limit based on what it has in its GPS information. So you have factory nav, but you also have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which allow you to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, which are some of the most up-to-date maps in the world and some of the best routing. So you have your choice to use either or. Where this is good is where your cell maybe has less signal. This one might have some as well. Now climate control is currently set to auto. Again, you can sort of see that same screen there. The controls here, same idea. Heated seats, high and lows, heated steering wheel. It's the same exact screen. You can also see the backup camera. You can pull that up there as well. But things I'd like to see, oops, let's go with the controls here. Things I'd like to see is those should have buttons. And you can see here, they do not. I have a Jeep 21 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. It's a 4xe model, and it does have the heated seat buttons sort of down with the other controls, which is kind of nice, and the heated steering wheel button. So basically the same controls here. One difference is your traction control and the ability to turn that start-stop when the engine turns itself off at a stoplight. They're up here instead of down here and down here on the other version there. Electronic parking brake, same idea right there. But just a little interesting that they put them a little bit better positioned here. Still the screen off button like we talked about. So again, pretty much identical controls here. Again, dual zone climate control, passenger can control their side here, or once they're synced, you can control both sides here or just the driver's side there. Now, let's talk about the off-road modes on this one. So you can see a little bit of a difference here. You have a locking rear differential. So that's, again, if you're really going into off-roading, this one has some advantages, not just in tire, but in mechanical systems here. So you've got sort of the cruise control type for slow speed. You've got the ability to drop it into a neutral mode to tow yourself out, which you can press that button there. Again, this is all heavier duty off-road type stuff, but again, it's differently built. So it's more electronically controlled than on a Wrangler, where it's a mechanical type system that now has electronic actuators. It's a little bit different. You can see all your modes in there. Again, more so than just about every other vehicle in this class. So you can really go off-road, but you can also really go you know, wherever you kind of want to go. You've got the real customized modes there. I'm going to pull this out of the way. You also have a 12-volt port and a single USB right there. And again, a lot of this is very similar right in here. Let's go fully wide angle. So I've got my little stuff in here. There is a phone holder that you can set the phone up like this. No wireless charging on these particular models here. And then you have a little bit more Jeepy type stuff. Since 1941, it says on the wheel, which is the Jeep Wrangler since 1941. But you know, they try to carry that heritage into this model, and you do have capability here. Taking a look up here, again, that visibility is pretty good. A little bit larger pillars here, I think, but visibility is pretty good because they are larger from here to here, which because of the angle makes it thinner than it would be, right? If you see my hand, which is pretty long, put it on the right angle, it's pretty thin. So again, a little bit larger pillar, but not really in the way. Good mirrors there. And again, they appear very, very similar. Let's check those auto up and auto down windows. They're definitely auto down. Are they auto up? They are auto up here as well, which is a difference. Headlights down there as well. So let's talk about the differences and what might be better for one than the other now. So the reason I chose these two vehicles today is because they're actually more similar than different, and you can certainly see that in the driver's environment. So let's talk about which one would be better for who. If you want a small crossover with off-road capability, either one of these are going to be good. Now, if you want that off-road capability for the few times you do a camping trip, or you maybe go on a hike and you've got some rougher roads, or you want just that ground clearance in the snow, you've got the option to do both of these, but this one's probably going to meet all the needs that you need. Now, because that one has all-terrain tires tend to perform a little bit better in snow-covered roads, or if you haven't plowed your driveway and you need to clear it, need to get out before you clear it, those all-terrain tires are going to probably make a difference. If you have the same situation here, you're probably going to want to add winter tires to this, or maybe an all-terrain or something like that, because these street tires, although they're a little bit better than some cars, they really are street tires. Now, those are just a couple things. If you want something that has the better efficiency, this is going to be your model. If you want something that has a better towing capacity, that is going to be your model, and it's set up better with the wiring. It's going to save you some money having it all pre-wired and pre-set up. There's ways to get trailer brake controllers that you don't even have to wire into the car. I have the Kurt Echo brake controller on my Jeep Wrangler, which means you wouldn't have to put anything in the car, but you're already set up for trailer braking on that one as well, which you might want if you're towing a heavier trailer, which that one can do. Now, the other thing worth noting is if you're a smaller person, these seats are going to be fine. I'm not a huge person. I'm still about 6 feet tall, but I'm fairly relatively thin anyways. These seats are going to be fine. If you're a larger person, that one does seem to have larger seats for me, and that may be something worth sitting in these and sitting in those. These ones might work for you, but those ones almost definitely will work for you. So that's another thing to keep in mind. The other thing, again, power differences matter. If you are someone who, although you like fuel efficiency, also have a little bit of a lead foot, you're going to feel a power difference there. Even though that's a heavier vehicle, it does have the ability to give you a little bit more oomph when you're getting going. The final difference is if you kind of like the idea of a Wrangler but maybe it's too expensive or too noisy or doesn't steer as well as you'd like, that Cherokee still gives, for most people, all the off-road ability that you're going to want, with a little bit different things like that locking differential, a little bit better style of things for off-roading capabilities. That will take you further down the trail than probably most people want to go, but it still allows you to go properly off-roading. It is not a Wrangler, it will never be a Wrangler, but again, if it's soft road or off-road, that's kind of how I would classify them. So there's your quick kind of, well, longer, but kind of review of both things, showing you things that the spec sheets don't show. Now you can always compare the spec sheets and decide which one works best for you that way. Don't forget to look at option packages, because certain vehicles have the ability to have certain options and certain ones don't. But if you want to know more about either of these vehicles, let me know in the comments below. Do me a favor, hit a like, hit subscribe. But also, if you want to see more and you leave that comment, make sure you do hit subscribe, because I can come back to these vehicles again and again and make sure I answer all the questions you need. Thanks everybody for watching. I want to thank Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals for giving me access to their vehicles. And if you're looking for a vehicle in Fredericton, Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals right here on St. Mary Street, they'll help you out.